Now, most of you will have heard of the idea popularised by Malcolm Gladwell that it takes around 10,000 hours of practice to master something. So on this basis, I am sad to say that I am guilty of becoming an expert in being a very idle man. You see, in the last 10 years, I have spent at least this much time peering into a smartphone. Who knows how much time was spent on other devices before this? You do the maths yourself and I think you'll be shocked. How many days or hours have you spent on your phone? 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, maybe more. In fact, do you even know? This is not an irrelevant question if you want to live a more meaningful and contributing life. Now, over the years, I've asked others about their phone habits, as I spend a lot of my time wondering, is it just me? And I've usually met with a mild acknowledgement of a problem, sometimes indifference, and at others denial. We know this can be a convenient tool that can be put to good use, but we're all hooked into the matrix, and I think much more than what we realise. In the last month or so, I've broken up with my iPhone again. We're having another trial separation, and I'm slowly starting to adjust, but as the fog clears, the scene around me is worrying. I look at my family, I look at children at bus stops, I look at people walking out of shops, I look at passengers in cars, even drivers, all with hyperextended necks looking for the latest dopamine hit. We are a society in trouble. For me, it all started back in 1996 when I got my first cell phone contract, and I've not left home a single day without my digital tether. What I once thought of as an organiser and a liberator has become my oppressor, and my friends or family are locked in prison with me. And I'm upset about this. The older I get, the more I realise this is a race against time, and the phone consumes lots of it. How can I help the inmates escape if they're having such a lovely time with their jailers? Even I, with a memory of what existed before smartphones, succumb regularly to that warm hypnotic glow of the screen on my face. Now, we all have our kryptonite. I'm a feast or famine kind of guy, and for those of you that are into personality, I've got a profile which is ENFP. This means I love ideas, I love novelty and distraction, but I do get bored too easily. So give me the outline and the facts, but don't give me chapter and verse of a subject that won't interest me. People in my workplace credit me with knowing much about everything, and like a magpie, I hoover up data and spend my days joining dots and spotting trends. So it's easy to see how my personality type can get trapped in the Google or the Facebook rabbit hole. So much data, so many shiny objects to collect and think about. I'm not alone in noticing this as an issue. In fact, the inventors of this technology openly recognise the unintended consequences of their creations, and Pandora's box cannot be closed. Whoever could have foreseen that the like button could have become a destructive force? Yet we have our youth tyrannised by it. Their social worth, their perceived value of themselves hangs in the balance. How they present, what they say, or even more importantly, what they don't say, is influenced by the expected reaction of others. We all have a longing to be liked, and this irony isn't lost on me. Here I am making a video. I hope you like what I say, and if you don't like it, it maybe doesn't get promoted. Is it the message? Do I need a different background? Do I need better lighting? Do I need to pick a more interesting subject? Like with anything we do in life, success can be a case of luck. Right message, right time, right medium. Now, of course, there's an element of control in this from the invisible hand at Google. But the algorithm, for want of a better word, does seem to have a mind of its own. I think of it like a flock of starlings over a city. There is an ebb and flow of movement, this way, then that way, and culture and politics and the news cycle is influenced by this directionless and unseen force. Where it goes or what it does, in fact, is anyone's guess. It's like a huge wrecking ball that swipes lumps out of thousands of years of wisdom, tradition, society, and our families, relationships, and us as individuals get damaged with it. There is true, parts of life and things are better, things are quicker, there's some decision making is more accurate. But there are parts, I think, that are much worse, such as our attention spans, our tolerance for any type of delay, and more worryingly, our mental health. We might be prepared to admit this, but we decide that in fact this is someone else's problem. But every decision that we make on our phones and in our apps ripples through the filters of the artificial intelligence, and that has an effect downstream. If it provokes an intense reaction, the filters pay special attention to this, and our phones and then other devices complete the feedback loop, giving us more of what the system thinks that we want, more of what provokes an action or a feeling. An example of this for me was like 20 years ago. I had a wider taste in music, probably due to the radio playing in the background. Now I have music on demand through Spotify, and it just keeps giving me more of what I'm listening to. And it actually takes a conscious effort to break the cycle and to look for new music. When we apply this, I think, to the news and politics, in earlier days people understood that there was nuance and shades of grey, but now everything is binary. You almost have to pick a side. You've got to be pro this or anti that. And these devices in our hand are a large part of the problem, and we seem incapable of escape. For indeed, how can we escape when addiction is designed into our social media apps as a standard? This is where we're rewarded, you see, with small dopamine nudges, and it just demands one more minute, or just one more swipe, or just one more article. And like a frog placed into cold water, we have been slowly cooked alive, and most of us are unaware of the consequences. And we tell ourselves it's all okay, because everybody else is doing it. So, yeah, we reason it must be fine. But for too long, I've let my life be influenced according to what the search engines have thought, or looked at ideas through the lens of YouTube personalities who have been especially curated to cater to my interests. For years, I believed that I was in charge of the narrative of my life. But how much of this, I wonder, has been dictated by this wretched algorithm? You'll have people like Jordan Peterson who often refer to the great Abrahamic journey that we should embark on. And yet, how can we participate if we only ever focus 2 feet in front of ourselves looking at our phones? Now, I confess I love this new technology. If anything, I've always been an early adopter, and this technology has been exciting and liberating. But the speed of change is outpacing me. And no one on this planet can accurately tell us what this means for us as the human race. But what I do know is that this technology must be used with care, or soon it will be the master of you and your family. Now, as a household leader, do you need to take action in your own home? The rot, I would say, set in mind for lack of anything better to do, especially during those dark, miserable Irish winter nights when summer came. The course was set, and now the ship sails to the melody of Instagram or Amazon's siren call. So like many, once again, I'm trying to break free, and I've taken a number of practical steps which I'll talk through in my next video. The good news, I think, about digital addiction, unlike smoking or maybe drinking, is that this is a compulsion which can be broken quickly, often in as little as 7 days. However, be aware the process of getting sucked back in is both subtle and unremarkable, making this a tricky opponent to beat. I can confirm that over the last month, writing this material on Evernote or searching for references or posting material on Twitter, it means that I've learned that if you're not careful, 1 minute on the phone can quickly turn into 10 unfocused idle minutes. I want to leave you from a quote by an Irish Times writer called Lisa Wells, and she says, "I hadn't deliberately chosen to worship my iPhone, but when you repeatedly bow your head to something, stroking it thousands of times a day, it begins to shine like an idol." Now, this is important because idols are not neutral. As false gods, they demand a sacrifice of your potential on their altars in return for momentary happiness. I worry as we lose ourselves in this technology and as we sacrifice our best selves to it, there will be a price to pay. I think in earlier days this would have been called judgment. Now, I don't know what this will look like for us, but I think it is time to leave this sort of metaphorical city before destruction occurs, before it is too late. Don't forget to take your family with you, and don't dare let anyone look back. There's abundant life to live, but why settle for a half-life, neither living fully in this world or getting any meaning from your stumbling around in the digital desert? Friend, it's time to come home. Don't delay. Time is running out. Tomorrow is not promised.